You'd think that in a world without Horrid Henry, his mum and dad would finally get what they've been wishing for since the show began.
I'll now attempt to make this clever little boy disappear.
Bravo! Bravo! Oh, lovely. Oh, 3 whole days without Henry.
Bliss.
They'd be getting a quiet house with a perfectly behaved son and, most importantly, no embarrassment at the parents' evening.
We need to talk about Henry.
All right then, if you insist.
What's he done now, Madame Tutu?
Wasn't this genuinely the dream that they've been describing on screen for over a decade? Well, once we actually sat down to think about this scenario where Henry wouldn't be born, the bloody opposite is actually true. And it gets even crazier because we noticed fans have actually been predicting versions of what-if questions for some time now. I mean, there's a Reddit thread about all the possible outcomes for Henry's parents in this scenario, but more about that later. The first thing that would actually go wrong has nothing to do with mum and dad, because it would happen to perfect Peter, who is the one kid in the house everyone assumes would thrive in this timeline. In the actual show, Peter's whole personality is built on being the opposite of Henry.
Henry, use your spoon.
I'm using my spoon.
Peter is perfect Peter, only because Henry's Horrid Henry. And the two of them work like a balance, where Henry's chaos makes Peter's perfection look like something, while Peter's goody two-shoes act makes Henry feel like the rebel he wants to be.
Mom! Don't be horrid, Henry. Look at the mess. I didn't make a mess, Mum.
Both kids need each other to even make sense as characters. Without Henry around to be the contrast of Peter, sadly, Peter won't be having a real audience for his perfection acts, which means he's no reason to keep doing it the way he used to do it. Reddit posts even pointed this out, arguing that Peter, without Henry, might not even know who he is when he starts aging. Peter would probably start getting weirder and weirder quickly, because he has always been the kind of kid who needs external validation to feel good about himself. And without Henry around to be the worst comparison, he would likely double down on the obsessive parts of his personality just to keep getting noticed.
You're banned from TV, DVD, PC, and anything electrical for a whole year.
That'll save 59 million megawatts.
Don't get us wrong, but Peter is already a little bit robotic about being good in the actual show, so this isn't really a stretch. The bigger problem for Peter, though, is at school. In the real timeline, he at least has Tidy Ted and Goody Gordon to be insufferable with as a group. But without Henry around as the common enemy, that gives the whole Goody crew a reason to exist.
You're changing the subject again. Hold on a minute, Peter. I mean, Chief Best Boy. Maybe he's telling the truth. Oh, please!
Those two would probably drift away from Peter eventually, because there's no group of well-behaved kids if there's no group of badly behaved kids for them to be defining themselves against. So Peter would likely need to get used to this.
Blast!
Buttercups and daisies!
Not now,
Peter!
That is just the smaller problem, though. The much bigger one is what would happen to him at home. Here's where we have to talk about something that really actually holds the rest together, because without this part, nothing else would really land. Mum and Dad's entire emotional condition in the show runs entirely on having a scapegoat, and that scapegoat is Henry, who they blame for pretty much everything that goes wrong in their lives. The most famous example of this is the traffic jam scene, where Dad literally blames Henry for the traffic.
Ugh, I can't believe we're in this traffic jam now. This is all your fault, Henry. Did you hear me, Henry?
Henry, listen to your father.
We have brought this scene up in another video already, and we are bringing it up again, because we still can't believe that these are real words that came out of a grown man's mouth. Whenever Mum or Dad have a stressful moment, their response is to turn around and dump it on Henry.
Dad, about my mobile phone?
N-O spells no, Henry!
when something goes wrong at work or in the house, Henry's the one who hears about it through being called horrid for absolutely no reason at all.
Morning, Henry.
Morning! Don't be horrid, Henry.
And sometimes when Mum and Dad mess something up themselves, they find a way to twist that into Henry's problem too.
It was Peter's fault! He sprayed me!
Don't tell lies, Henry.
It's true. I sprayed him.
Well, Henry, you should have got out of the way when Peter was watering the flowers.
There's a whole body of psychology around what happens in families that lean on a designated scapegoat to keep things running. The family needs somebody to absorb the emotional pressure that the parents can't deal with directly. And once that somebody exists, family kind of forgets how to exist without them. So when you take Henry out of this picture, all of that emotional pressure that he was absorbing has nowhere to go anymore. Well, I mean, it doesn't magically disappear just because Henry's gone. It sits there inside Mum and Dad until they find someone else to dump it onto. And guess who that is going to be? Peter. This is the part of the timeline where things would start going sideways in ways that even Peter himself wouldn't see coming, because Mum and Dad would not consciously decide to start treating Peter the way that they treated Henry. They would just start doing it without thinking about it in the same exact way that they used to do it with Henry. They used to do it to Henry without thinking about it. The signs would probably show up first in moments where Mum and Dad already have a short fuse. Those moments are what accumulate and lead Mum and Dad to turn on Henry in the actual show.
To go to bed when it gets dark.
What? It's not even 5 o'clock!
Good night, Henry.
You are the worst parents in the world!
With Henry no longer in their lives, that snap has to land somewhere. And it's obviously going to be Peter, because he's the only kid going to be available in that house. The transfer would probably start with things that are actually Peter's fault, just to keep it reasonable in their own heads. Then it would shift to not an actual Peter's fault, and after that it would eventually shift to things that have nothing to do with Peter at all, which is exactly the same pattern that they used with Henry.
What have you done now, Henry? Nothing. Oh, and where have you put the computer screeny thingy?
The logic is already there in the show, and that same logic would absolutely turn on Peter once Henry was not around to absorb it. Multiple fans have pointed out that Henry is the scapegoat in all of this, and the scapegoating is a pattern in the house, and not a reaction to anything Henry specifically does, which means it would absolutely transfer over if Henry was never there to be the target. So Peter, who has never been blamed for anything in his life, would slowly start being blamed for everything. And the wild part is that his parents would probably not realise they're even doing it. Now, this is where things get particularly dark and where these comments come in. Yeah, he should 100% report them to social services. Genuinely speaking, somebody should call them. Well, that's something that Peter needs to be worried about when Henry is no longer there. In the actual show, Mum and Dad say the phrase, "Don't be horrid, Henry," so often that it might as well be a second name for him.
Don't be horrid, Henry. Just look at Peter's face.
The word is basically a reflex at that point.
Don't be horrid, Henry!
That kind of reflex doesn't just go away because Henry isn't there anymore. The word's probably built into Mum and Dad's muscle memory at this point. So when Peter starts cracking under the pressure of being the new emotional dumping ground, that word would absolutely come out of their mouths and land on Peter instead. The kid who has spent his entire life being told he's perfect would hear himself called horrid for the first time ever, and that would probably break something in him quite fast. Most people who've watched the show would agree that Peter is not built to survive the kind of treatment that Henry survived, because Henry developed thick skin from years of dealing with it, while Peter has no defense at all. So Peter would definitely start cracking easily. The acting out would likely be smaller than Henry's was at first, since Peter wouldn't have the same instincts for it, but it would still happen. Something related to this.
Now, I'm truly horrid.
Even the show itself has already explored what happens when Peter snaps, which is the entire premise of the episode Perfect Peter's Horrid Day, where we got to see Peter's other side, which is the horrid one. Also here.
The flowers.
Oh, they're for my, pressed flower collection.
Really?
Once that switch flips, you can see exactly the kind of person that Peter actually would become if this world stopped rewarding him for being good. Now, imagine a version of Peter who never had Henry as a balance, and who's also being slowly blamed for everything in the house. That's not a kid who stays perfect for very long. While all of this is happening to Peter, something else would probably be happening right in the background, and we actually already covered this in our last Horrid Henry video about what these characters would look like in 20 years. Make sure to check that out if you haven't. Okay, getting back to it. Mum and Dad's marriage is not exactly built on much when you really watch their scenes together.
It's my toast, I buttered it, and I jammed it, so there. It's mine!
Almost every conversation they have on screen is somehow about Henry, whether they're complaining about him or coordinating punishments for him or venting about how exhausted he makes them.
This'll be our normal routine.
A few weeks?
Of course. Today was just the start. If we cut down on talking, it could save a whole 5 minutes.
I was still reading.
That's genuinely most of the content of their relationship. Most of the Reddit fans actually go with this prediction. Simon and Susan, the parents, got divorced after 10 years of marriage. Simon kept the house. Susan now lives in Birmingham. Their marriage is functional only because they have a common thing that they're doing, which is dealing with Henry. And without that, they would have to look at each other for the first time in years, which is probably not going to end well for them. So the marriage eventually would get quieter and quieter until somebody breaks. Mum would probably start staying late at work because the house feels too empty without the chaos, while Dad would likely start finding excuses to drive longer on the way home for the same reason. Once they start drifting, there's nothing in their actual personalities that will pull them back together, because the thing they bonded over doesn't exist anymore. So eventually, they would probably separate the way fans have been predicting for years, and Peter would be sitting right in the middle the entire time. While the family is unraveling, the wider Horrid Henry world would also be quietly changing and actually starts to sound sad once you start mapping it out across the whole neighbourhood. Moody Margaret's whole personality exists in direct reaction to Henry. Without Henry, her secret club has nobody to scheme against, and her bossiness has nobody pushing back against it, which means her best episodes basically don't happen at all.
I won't if you won't. I'm not scared.
Neither am I. Let's call it a draw.
Okay.
The prediction about Margaret's future are actually decent. And that path is probably good for both of them. We kind of sense the chemistry between these two, the way they treated each other. But jokes aside, we shouldn't forget that this also happens sometimes. Gothic Golem 29 mentions, sometimes in shows and books, people start out disliking each other and then end up a couple, to be fair. And yeah, that's completely true. And also, Rude Ralph wouldn't find his best friend in this version.
Yeah, who'd have 'em? 15 seconds. We can do this. Nice.
Henry's the kid who pulled Ralph into the Purple Hand Gang and gave Ralph's whole personality something to actually point at. So without that friendship, Ralph would probably just be a quiet kid who fades into the background of the show. Also, Miss Battleaxe's entire presence in the show will suffer without Henry in it.
And for goodness sake, stop fidgeting. Have you got ants in your...
I don't think so, Miss Battleaxe. Shall I have a minute?
Her best scenes in the show are her chasing Henry around the school. So without that nemesis to push against her, teaching would probably get aimless.
What I found in the boys' toilets. You can wear these.
Brainy Bryant stays Brainy Bryant because nothing was ever going to change that kid. Some characters just exist on their own track, regardless of who else is around them.
Yeah, but this was ambitious. And if I knew what you were talking about, Brian, I'm sure I'd agree with you.
As a whole, the cumulative effect across the whole town would be this strange flatness everywhere. There'd be no purple hand gang, and Fluffy probably wouldn't get kidnapped as often because Margaret would have fewer reasons to scheme. While the dinner parties would stay normal and the school days would stay quiet, everything would be technically calmer, but also significantly less alive. Eventually, all of this would build up to a moment that Peter himself probably wouldn't even understand when it happened. Picture Peter at the end of all of this, maybe when he's around 12 or 13 years old. By this point, Peter could be failing at school for the first time in his life and get blamed for things that he had nothing to do with, while also watching his parents drift apart in front of him for months, and hearing the word horrid pointed at him so often that the sting has stopped registering. The realization would probably come for Peter alone in his bedroom one evening, and the way that things usually do, he'll be crying the same way that he did when Fluffy went missing.
Something. Caller number 5. What's your story?
We've lost our pet cat, Fluffy!
And as time passed, Dad will probably be the one to move out, and Mum is at work most evenings, so the house is quiet in a way that no kid should ever have to sit in, and Peter has run out of things to organise. All those gold stars to chase, and he's just there on his bed. He would sit on his bed for a long time afterwards, not knowing what to do. That's probably what would happen if you took Horrid Henry out of his family. The kid that Mum and Dad had spent years calling horrid was probably the only reason their household worked at all. He was the excuse all rolled into one person, and without him, all of those things would have come out of hiding and taken the whole family down with them. So, what should be the next What If Not Fair Studios should work on? What if Perfect Peter was never born and we watch Henry try to be the only child in that house? Or what if Moody Margaret was never born and we see who Henry becomes without his greatest rival? Let us know in the comments, because we genuinely are going to make it happen. Subscribe to the channel and we'll be back before you can even spell cheerio. Try it. See, it's there. Told you. Bye.